All right, Lydia, thank you.
Fantastic. I will go ahead and just share my screen. A moment. Thank you so much, Paul, for the introduction. So let me just put it into the slideshow. And if there's questions, Paul, please just stop me along the way. So today, this is probably one of my favorite topics. It's called leading teams. I wanted to share with everyone kind of what my recipe for success is. And so as Paul described, I've been around the industry for 25 years. I never thought I would be saying that. But it's been one of, being in support is probably one of my favorite careers. I've definitely gone out of support and dabbled into other different areas. I've always come back to it. I think part of it is really just the not only working with other people, the customers, the internal, external customers, but I feel that support for me is very personal. You build so many personal business relationships. So today, what we're going to talk a little bit about in our agenda is, things that motivate employees today. It's changed over the last 25 years, right? And then I wanted to share with you the different types of teams that are here, the top three. This is the ones that I've experienced as well. Share with you guys a little bit about what my recipe is for success, and then share some real world examples. These are examples that I've been through personally, and I wanted to share those with you and sort of how to navigate some of these different situations. So things that motivate employees today, past and present, right? And so in the past, I've remembered, right, when I first got my first manager or had my first management job, there's like the carrot and stick post. If you don't do X, you will be quote unquote punished, right? Not, punished. Maybe you won't get your raise, or maybe you won't get something like a good, highly visible project, right? And then there's, of course, employee recognition, financial rewards, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Now, the bottom three, employee recognition, financial rewards, autonomy, mastery, and purpose, those don't really change, right? And autonomy, mastery, and purpose is really, giving the employee an opportunity to grow, right? You're not micromanaging them, having them grow in their niche and having them sense of purpose. How do they contribute to the overall culture? Now, today, it's a little bit different, right? You still have the recognition, the autonomy, but here today, I believe that a lot of the employees look for a safe, emotionally safe work environment, right? Similar to like our group here. It's a safe environment. We can share our thoughts, right, constructively and not fear retaliation. Employee culture and team dynamics. That's another thing that's really important as well, right? How is it? Is it fun, right? Does it have, a really collaborative culture? Is it hopefully not toxic, right? And those things really matter to people now when they talk to an organization. Inclusive work culture and diversity, right? Making sure that everyone's able to listen objectively to each other's opinions, right? Their opinions matter, perspective matters, right? So that you are able to grow and help each other grow. And then, of course, growth opportunities and learning, right? It doesn't just start by the first job you get hired. What's the career path? And people are really looking to follow that. I'm from the Valley, so usually for us, it's and I think I've been in the Valley now, gosh, almost 26 years, 27 years. And so, the average time someone is at a job is like 2 to 3, sometimes even shorter. I've had colleagues, a year, right? I mean, personally, for me, I try to stay in a place for 3 years if possible. And then I think the longest that I've ever stayed at an organization is about 7. And if you talk to other people, sometimes it's even longer than that, right? As well, depending on the size of the organization that you're with. Any questions about motivations, about past and present motivations? Okay. Moving on. So the different types of teams, and again, this is some of the things that I've experienced in my career. So the first kind, the first type is the ones that you inherit. I use bicycles because here I'm a former triathlete. I love bikes. And so, I kind of use it to kind of describe the type of teams, right? You've got your, the scenario is you move into your new role, you meet the team, and you're going to manage people who have training wheels, right? Very junior members, people who are just kind of your every day, they're reliable, they show up to work. And then you've got your, Pinarello dogmas, right? For those who are bike enthusiasts, that's like your high performing bike. One bike, the Pinarello is $20,000 or more. And so this is like your high performing individual. So you've got a really nice combinations of folks within this type of team. The second type of team is the teams that you build from scratch. You are hired to come in, you build a team from the bottom up. This is probably one of the most fun if you like to do that, because you get to create the types of teams that exist, right? To support a company's business plan or some sort of business vision. And then the last type of team that I've also been a part of is what I call a hybrid. You inherit the people, and then you are also tasked to hire new people. And, kind of like this bike here, you kind of create this team of everyone pedaling together and, going towards that company vision. Now, these are the ones that I've experienced. I mean, certainly there's probably a few more out there that I'm unfamiliar with, but for me, I've really enjoyed every single one and had opportunities to learn and grow from each of these scenarios. So what are some of the recipes for success for teams like these, right? And managing in general. So one of the things that I always hold near and dear to me is always having a set of operating principles. What do you stand for as a leader, right? For me personally, I try to tell my employees, I work for them, right? I have a, kind of a 3-piece rule, truth, fairness, and honesty, right? And I feel like it's a good opportunity for them to critique me as myself. If I am making a mistake, I want them to tell me what mistakes I'm making. And when I give feedback, we are here to build a relationship. It's open and honest and transparent. Another thing that I have that I do when I manage my teams is I always learn what motivates them, right? Connect with them individually and identify what makes them excited about work. Not excited about work. I always say, remember the first day you were hired to do this job. What made you accept that job? What made you get drawn to this job? And I really enjoy talking to them about the skills that they want to pick up, right? What do they want to do? And I always tell them the sky's the limit, right? And I'm here to help you achieve that halfway, right? Like you do the 50% and I do the 50%. We can make this happen. And that I'm here to really help them add a bullet point to their resume, and really help them grow along the way. I feel like that is really important to sort of connect with them and talk to them about what they believe in. The next thing is adapt your leadership style. One of the things that does not work is the one size fits all. I'm sure you guys have probably heard this as well in the industry, right? You cannot, if somebody's incredibly introverted, you wouldn't treat them the same way as you would treat someone who's very extroverted, right? You sort of adapt to what motivates each of them. It does take time. And I feel that in management, I would say 75% of the time is really tasking to build those relationships and understanding each person emotionally, right? And understand what they are about. I think that's a very important piece. And the last and final thing is diversify skills and create role clarity, right? A lot of times when you come into a team, any of those teams, I always, either have a very clear job description or conduct a skill assessment to make sure that I know and they know what their strengths are. I only really focus on the strengths because that's what's going to help the team move forward. And then also the other thing is to have a clear job progression path for growth and expansion. I think this one is really key because nobody wants to ever be at a job and doing the same thing for years, right? Even for people who says, oh, really, I really love what I do, but there's still certain things that they want to grow and want to be a part of. And I think that's a really important piece about what motivates someone to continue to stay in their role. Any questions? Paul, I'm going to pause to see if any questions that came in through the chat.
We've just got a lot of great comments about servant leadership, egos, being the silent killer of culture and teams, and then
Yeah,
how job frameworks help with giving growth progression.
perfect. All right, so next slide is, let me just share with you some real world examples. And again, these are examples of what I've been through either in past jobs or current job as well. And the first one is company A. The team inherited a global team of 7 people after their beloved manager left. And this is always a tough one, I think, as a new manager coming in. Seniority of the people, they're early career individuals, and early career meaning people who have been in the industry 3 to 5 years working, right? So early career, they haven't had a ton of experience, right? Their first job maybe just have been a customer service rep, or maybe an analyst, or a junior support engineer. So those, or a junior customer success manager, right? So those guys need a lot of mentorship, growth, and growth opportunities within the organization. Now, what I thought about when putting the slide together, it was really about looking at what people do in the past. Right? In the past, if you imagine what motivates employees, people will have like this, the past ways, like if a new manager came in, a new manager meaning manager as a whole, people who manage individual contributors, right? They may come in and say, have a command and control mentality. And that means, I'm a manager, do what I say, here are the KPIs, here's what you need to follow, right? You do what's needed and you achieve them or not. And then really do a one-size-fits-all approach to each team member, not really assessing them. There's no skill assessment, and just moving along. However, what today's way is, right, and why the way I feel that it really works, and this is exactly what I'm doing today, is set clear expectations, right? When you get into a new organization, especially early career individuals, let them know who you are as a person, especially in the sense of the part about having, having an emotionally safe environment, right? Being that, hey, you can be honest and tell us what's going on. It's perfectly fine. And you can share your, if you have criticisms or concerns. And, let them know who you are as a person. I always tell my people, right, I have trust, honesty, and fairness. I respect you. I really, want to be here for you and help you along the way. And then really start talking to these folks about their aspirations. What do you want to be when you grow up, right? And what do you want to be? What do you see yourself? I think those are such important pieces. And then finally, really discovering what their strengths are as well. So this is one of the different scenarios that I've been in. And those are some of the things that I've tried that, were made me successful today. Another one is, for company B, right? The team is, you were hired to basically come in and build the team from the bottom up. New global team. And seniority, it's mixed, right? It depends on what type of roles you're being asked to build and where people need to go. And so the old way is, build teams on examples from other companies, right? You take everything you know and you just go in and you just build. You don't ask questions. You don't ask what the company vision is, what the company mission statement, where are they wanting to go, the purpose, right? You get, the past is to just be very unclear with the job descriptions. You don't have a generic vision. And you also have this one size fits all. Maybe you want to always just hire, the same type of engineer for every single role, right? It doesn't seem to be very realistic. Now, one other way to do it is, really ask yourself when you're in these situations where you're building teams from the bottom up, what's the purpose of the company creating this team? What is the type of work that's required? How many people can you hire? What's the capacity plan? What's the vision for your team, right? And kind of like, what kind of metrics matter to this particular organization? And for me, I did this at a previous company, and my role was to actually build a team that was able to assimilate and matriculate into a senior support team, right? So my goal for this team building exercise was to build a team that was, a very young team, right? And then we would enable them and then have them grow into senior support engineers. So that way, we don't have to hire from the outside. We could just pick for the individuals who are ready to move forward and promote them up along the way. Any questions so far about these two items?
Not currently. Thank you. Looks like
Okay.
we're doing good. We do have just a couple minutes left, FYI.
Okay, perfect. I'm almost wrapping up. And then the last one is the hybrid teams, right? Where you inherit and you grow and hire along the way. And here, the seniority is mixed. And here again, the past methodology would have command and control, assumptions of skill assessment. You just kind of go in and do what you feel, and assumptions of team visions, and not have a clear job progression and paths. And then the new way is you come in, you set your expectations, right? Very similar to the company A, you know who you are as a person. And then I think one thing that makes this different than company A is that you identify senior individuals as your senior individual contributors on the team that you can learn from. Ask them what it was like before. If you had managers on the team, talk to the managers. How experienced are they? And then develop a vision and a roadmap for the team, right? And then finally, also set clear metrics, existing and new. If things are working, great, but then you can always augment along the way. And finally, I wanted to share with you before my summary page, some of the resources that help me come to this point, right? Is the Daniel Pink video, right? That he actually does talk about autonomy on there as well. Ken Blanchard and Spencer Johnson, The 1 Minute Manager, an oldie but a goodie. This is one of my favorite books. Patty Azzarello, Rise, another one that's recommended. We actually, in one of the previous companies that I've been at, I've had her come in and do a leadership training. Amazing. She really does a fantastic job. And then Susie Welch, 10-10-10. And this one is also a good one. Susie Welch, if you know Jack Welch, that's his wife. And although I'm not sure if they're still married, but so anyway, Jack Welch is the, I believe, General Electric CEO. And so 10-10-10 is a great one to read as well. Really transformative and makes things problem solving very easy, personally and also at work. And then finally, my summary slide is, keep employee motivations in mind, define what you stand for as a leader, and then recognize the type of team that you're building, adapt your style, develop relationships of trust, honesty, and fairness, and create a clear job progression path for your employees. And that's it for today. Thank you guys so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lydia. Appreciate your time and your preparation. As you were talking, I was thinking about, well, what has changed? And I love how you're looking at old leadership and new leadership today. And I come from the community space, and a lot of times when and many of you in the audience will relate to this. You have a community where, oh, it's like a great idea to let the customers answer the other customers' questions, right? But often they're going to be talking a lot about their frustrations with your product. And what I heard in the community space a lot of was good communities and good community managers are going to embrace that. They're going to embrace that conversation because it shows a lot that the community itself is willing to talk about that in the company's community space. It shows a lot of trust. It shows a lot that they feel like they can open up. And so I just loved your points there about creating that space for that to happen. And I think it shows quite a bit. So everybody with me, let's give a round of applause to Lydia. Thanks for stimulating our minds. And we are excited to jump into breakout groups now. So inside of our breakout groups, I